Thank you so much, and thank you so much.
I'll just do a little bio.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so Videshni is the founder of Light Workers, which is a non-profit organisation based in South Africa that's dedicated to empowering women and children and recovering drug addicts. Despite a 27 years journey in law, which included training as an acting magistrate in the Children's Court, Videshni has stayed true to serving her heartbeat of service to communities in desperate need. She's become a voice of social service institutions and non-profit organisations responsible for improving the lives of the poorest of the poor. Her passion for service has included creating solutions against gender-based violence, creating programmes for rehabilitated addicts, to working with women to empower them with business and personal mastery. Videshni has been the recipient of a Women of Wonder Award in 2017 in the Gauteng Highly Influential Women of the Year 2019 and 2020, presented for her work in communities and numerous academic awards as a lecturer in the institutions where she lectured law. She currently fulfills another passion of doing international humanitarian work by serving as a resource acquisition officer of one of the largest international NGOs called JAM, which is Joint Aid Management International. Welcome, Videshni.
Thank you so much for this welcome. Unfortunately, I tried with my video and I'm not able to present with my video on. That's all as a result of the load shedding in our areas as we currently experience in South Africa. But just what I wanted to share is, we had a lot of people, family and friends that were going to join us at 12:20. So I hope we'll be able to share this with them.
It is all being recorded.
Okay, great. So it will be shared. Thank you so much.
Yes, yeah.
Sorry, I didn't hear you there.
Yes, it will be shared. It's being recorded and it's also live on Facebook. So you will get to.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, with regards to, the stories that I have listened to thus far, especially after listening to all of the accounts of the beautiful souls on this platform, I decided today that I'm going to speak from the heart, setting a powerful intention as I share to divorce ourselves from our minds, and only for the next few minutes to indulge me in taking you into a journey of my own heart. So some years ago, I read that traditional feminine qualities solely was the preserve of women have been things like cooperation, support, working for the good of the whole rather than the individual, covering for those in need of help, speaking your truth, listening rather than forcing your views on others. And today, I want to add to that the feminine preserve of selflessness. So I was influenced very early on in my young life, as young as 10 or 11 years old, by a spiritual mentor on the path of selfless service. You see, he was a medical doctor all those years ago in India, and he gave up his practice just to serve. And I think through his journey, he said, service to mankind is service to God. When I looked at his journey and later on in my own country of birth, that of South Africa, I was reading about the work of Dr. Imtiaz Sooliman. And if you look at his work, you too will agree with me that he deserves a Nobel Peace Prize for what he is achieving in terms of support of people during that his journey was motivated by the word of God. Currently, I work for an international aid organization and founded by another phenomenal man, Peter Pretorius, in South Africa. And his work too began around the word that he received from God to serve the people of Africa. But for me, the greatest lesson in selflessness came in my own journey of motherhood, which is largely a female's domain. From the moment of being handed a child, let's go back 2 months before that. Let's go back 9 months before that. You are conscious of this wonderful blessing. Your body kicks in to overdrive because you're constantly focusing on the survival of another human being and being charged with the responsibility of bringing that child into the world. And truthfully, nobody applauds women for that very tangible act of selflessness during motherhood. For me, it brought me the greatest lessons. And almost 20 years ago, when I first became a mother and began that journey, I started bringing women together for support that I saw wasn't readily available to women 2 decades ago. So moving out of extended homes and communities that we lived in, we were forced to reconcile this journey of motherhood with raising a family, focusing on our career, and all that from inspirational selflessness that nobody applauds women for except other women. And I have looked at world examples of feminine leadership, like in New Zealand, in Germany, how often we discount the glorious stories of hope by dismissing this as first world experience as being different, or than saying we can't let them try to do that in a country that is a third world country where I am from. And again, while I know this is a minority point of view, it is largely relevant. Fast forward now to my own journey of motherhood, where my third baby, if ever selflessness of motherhood was tested, in the 6 hours I took to get 60 milliliters of breast milk into the mouth of a severely clefted baby. He was born with a birth defect, a cleft lip, and a palate. And he endured over 15 operations in the first 5 years of his life. I never questioned his arrival in my life at all. I saw it as a passage into greater purpose, because in this motherhood journey, I could connect with other mothers of children born with special needs. Back to selflessness. So over the course of my journey, I got to meet Nelson Mandela in this country. And I actually have a special message from him made out to my husband and I, knowing that we came from a family of anti-apartheid activists. And he wrote to me almost 22 years ago, sending his best wishes to a couple who earned his respect and admiration. To me, that message felt more fortuitous to the role that was unfolding in my life in terms of service. And it is true, as the earlier speaker pointed out, that Madiba implored us not to be afraid of our light. So in that space of motherhood of the special needs child, I began to question more the purpose of this child in my life and the purpose of motherhood. Yudav, who is my special baby, was a reminder to me about how the world deals with imperfection. Here he was shining in his imperfection and forcing me to revisit the plasticity of a perfect existence, right down to the surreal messages that were passed to us at the time by friends and families that said to us, their children were scared and having nightmares after seeing our baby. To me, Yudav was the greatest gift to my household because he taught my other 2 children to be protective over what wasn't perfect, to have empathy that I see carried out in them right to this day as young adults. And together in this household, we have brought up and raised a very confident 12-year-old boy. But not only was this journey into realizing selflessness and imperfections, it also led me to my own existence. I actually became a lawyer to fight injustice in this world. For my sins and finishing on at the top of my law class, I was in the early days, taken to work in one of the largest law firms in our country in South Africa. And this was all very sexy and attractive in my career. But after Yudav was born, I actually became a legal academic. And students would come up to me with great respect because of the background that I came from, because I represented the appeal of working in a large law firm where you could earn tons of money and build wealth and status for yourself. And you can imagine, with the impact of that journey of imperfection in a perfect existence, understanding the plasticity of this world, I was already standing in front of lecture rooms at that stage, imploring on young students to think of how they could use their qualifications to serve communities. So, I wondered what kind of effect that might have had on them earlier in my life, and now, as I, look back, and I realized that they are still following my journey in humanitarian work. So there is still hope and power in youth today. I know, COVID has forced us into a space where we realize very quickly our connectedness to each other. We realize very quickly how we lost sight of what was important in this world. For me, my awakening might have been the special needs baby, but for a large number of us, the world is starting to become awakened as a result of understanding of that connectedness of each other. And, we cannot function daily with ignoring, how malnutrition in Africa, where you have children that are, blinded by malnutrition, ravaging and scavenging in rubbish heaps to gain food, while the rest of the world is eating healthily during this period. It speaks to me largely about how, while those messages are there, and while some of us have awakened in our journey, and I'm very happy to say that even some youth wake up to the purpose of their existence very early in their lives. But we're almost forced to question, like, why is it that people give up this idea of selflessness so early in the world, and so early in their journeys? And I think it is because we've lost sight of connectedness and our heart's connection, and what's so important and what's so relevant in this world. In terms of my own journey, I set up Lightworkers. And when I speak to transformational leadership beginning in a space of selflessness, I recount, the words of my other great mentor, Mahatma Gandhi, who said, you actually find yourself when you lose yourself in the service of others. And for me, when I took a job in social services after coming out of training as a magistrate's court, in the children's court for a short while, I realized that I was going to get lost in the service of people, because after working in communities for close on to 7 years with Lightworkers, the organization I formed, I was able to spin programs into existence for, people that were affected by all of the social ills that actually connect together. Poverty connects with drugs, and no matter what community you might be in the world, these problems are rife all over. And my journey now is also to share a large part of that lesson with the rest of the communities in the world. And that is why I accepted the sponsorship to this platform to discuss that very important change and transformative journey in my life. I believe that we are all here for a purpose, and there is such an appeal in terms of transformational leadership in serving selflessly. And it really is something that I would advise on, because We don't transform when we enter platforms with our hero capes and see ourselves as above the people we serve. We transform when we are actually working from a level of connectedness, from a level of empathy with everybody that is around us, from an understanding that that mother's pain can be my own pain. That mother's rehabilitation journey could easily have been me. You know, we understand our connectedness and our purpose and God giving us the challenges because we have to rise from them. And it is only in that space of selflessness that we awaken to our greater purpose. And today I can speak of that journey of selflessness. You know, most people actually have asked over the years, you know, they question my purpose and they question whether I'm trying to become popular over this. And I think that's a very unfair thing that is dealt to women as well, because as I said, it's very much expected in our femininity to be that selfless. But I've also traversed paths where there are people that are inspired by this journey, international communities themselves, just like this platform, who speak to purpose and connectedness. And for me, where I am at right now and what I wanted to share specifically is that in serving communities, in bringing about these programs in rehabilitation, in bringing about the various gender-based violence programs, the programs run to equip women with basic skills, I also knitted together parts of me. And in many respects, it was through the selfless act and the selfless devotion with which I served that I was knitting myself and pieces of myself whole again. And I'm going to be sharing that journey on every platform that I might be welcomed on, because there is a beauty in selfless service, and true leaders don't transform in the space of selfishness. They transform in the space of selflessness. And that is why I believe that it is something that is promoted by spiritual mentors all over the world, that transformation of yourself and of others begins in the space of selflessness. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Videshni. That was a beautiful talk, and you're definitely a very selfless lady. And so many things that you said were just hit the nail right on the head about, you know, about being selfless, about serving in that place, about how much you grow when you come from a place of selflessness. Yeah, just fantastic. Does anybody have any questions for Videshni?
I do, Jerry.
Yeah.
So I thoroughly enjoyed your story and your journey. I connect with so much of it. My son and his wife have a little girl who's got a couple of different major disabilities. And when they found out what the things that were her needs, they just dove into learning everything they could about how to help her. And one of the things that I really love about what they've done is they've turned around, and she has autism and she has severe form of epilepsy, which is kind of dangerous. And so both my daughter-in-law and my son have turned their life around to now serving others that are just finding out. He's a lawyer, and at the time he was teaching at Cornell Law School in New York, and law research. And so he researched every possibility of what could be done to help his daughter. And now he and his wife mentor other families that are just finding out and share the information that they have collected for those other families, that because, as you know, when you find out your child has a disability, there is a short period, hopefully just a short period of grieving about it, and then it's time to just forget yourself and become selfless, like you're speaking of, to care for and to, and then you've taken it even further than just in your family. And my son just recently has done that too. He was practicing law, um, doing estate law, but now he got a new job working for the state of New York, defending people with disabilities, and he absolutely loves it because he has the knowledge behind him for all the stuff he's learned and done over the years that they've had this beautiful child. That is such an amazing blessing in our family. I just connected in so many ways with the way you're speaking. Humanitarian work is my number one favorite thing to do. So thank you so much for that lovely, lovely talk. Now, did you say your son is now 12?
Yes, Jerry, he is 12 years old, and he's such a confident little boy these days that we as a family almost have to remind ourselves, when we chat to him, to become slightly more conscious about the fact that people, don't understand him in his excitedness when he speaks. So this journey has been so fulfilling in terms of raising a confident boy. And, that's what you want. I always tell him he was gifted with this because he can help other children, realize that while they are born different, there is nothing wrong with them. And I feel so inspired by your son's own journey because, my motherhood experience led me into community work. And then it led me into realizing I could do work on an international platform in humanitarian aid work. And again, our similarities to your family in terms of taking law to different levels, because when you work in law, you are operating, seeking out the injustice. And I feel that I've been transported now to an international platform to do exactly that. So how wonderful it would be to connect with your son as well, in this light.
And that would be wonderful. I'll see what I can do about making that connection happen, because it is quite extraordinary to watch and to be a part of and to live with him. I mean, I'm in California, they're in New York, but I'm so connected. I'm actually even more connected to him through Waverly is my granddaughter's name. I'm so connected even more so through Waverly. And I think what a wonderful blessing that is in our family. And the whole family it feels connected. Even because I have stepchildren, and even my stepchildren are very connected. When something goes wrong with Waverly and we need prayers, the entire family has a family fast. And it's just, I just love how much she's blessed our lives. And I'm excited for your son. Very excited for him.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support. It's true. These children inspire blessings and connectedness beyond what we can imagine.
That's true. Children are such a blessing, and yeah, they're born so perfect in every shape and form. They are perfect. They're little miracles, and yeah, I absolutely love your story, and I love your selflessness. You're just an incredible lady, and I'd love if you could just share your details on the platform so that people can connect with you, because I'm sure there's lots of people that would want to connect. And yeah, thank you so much for being part of this and for sharing your story. And it's just so wonderful to be able to connect with people from all over the world that have all got their own stories and their own challenges, but they're all here for the greater good. And that is just yeah, that just warms my heart. So thank you.
Thank you so much for the invite to share. And thank you so much for the encouragement and the support from a wonderful group of ladies that I've had the opportunity of meeting virtually. You know, I often say that while we might meet virtually, I understand the energy of connectedness as well and how we are linked in purpose. And I would very much like to be part of this journey moving forward. But I will leave my details on chat, and I will leave a special apology to family and friends that were going to join us later. And I would hopefully share this Facebook link with them, because I think most of them knew, you know, that I would be sharing about Yudav, and he was my drive into community work. So he's a special boy in this family as well. So I hope to receive this Facebook link and to share with all of them, and apologize that it was earlier than I expected. Thank you.
Thank you, Videshni. There is also a Facebook group that you can be part of for her story.